This is my Fuji Auto 7, a 35mm point and shoot from Fuji, released sometime in the 80s. It flashes, it auto winds, it can burn a little date into the bottom right of the picture, and it is not a very impressive camera. It's got a plastic body. This lens is not very sophisticated. It was cheap when it came out. You can get it for pretty cheap now. Yet, this camera is responsible for some of my favorite pictures I have ever taken. Why? Pretty much two reasons. A, it's insanely easy to shoot with. The only decision I find myself making is flash or no flash. And B, I keep this camera accessible. It pretty much lives in my car, and when it's not there, it goes on trips and vacations with me and allows me to quickly, spontaneously take pictures of whatever in life. It's a lot easier than busting out the interchangeable lens camera and say, oh, hold on, put on my 70-200. No, point and shoot. So that's why I'm gonna take this entire video to talk about a camera that we don't rent. No, this video is gonna be on the X100V. I'm Dom from Lensprotogo and Lens Rentals, coming at you from the streets. Welcome back to the channel. So why did I start this X100V video by talking about this thing? Well, the X100V is one of my favorite digital cameras to shoot stills on for those exact same two reasons. It is insanely easy to shoot, and that slim point and shoot style form factor body gives it that portability and that accessibility that I also love about shooting on this thing, as well as programming going on the inside that throws it back to the film days with those film simulations, grain settings. But it's not just this camera either, that's any new Fuji camera. And why am I talking about the X100V in the first place? The fixed lens camera kind of takes it out of the professional camera conversation, and it's been out about 2 years now. Well, what if I told you that the X100V just had an explosion in popularity, and it's all thanks to TikTok? You probably wouldn't be that surprised, actually, because that's just the internet. But if you're anything like me, you might want to dive a little deeper into why specifically people clung on to the X100V in this way. And by the way, this craze actually drove the price up of X100Vs, new and used, across the board. New X100V models were going for almost $3,000 on Amazon earlier this month. It was kind of messy. I think things are correcting themselves a little bit. So that's like a nutshell of what happened. But the purpose of this video is to unpack a couple of these claims I saw people making about the X100V when I was just doing a surface level investigation of what happened. So I promise I'm not going to take this whole video to talk about TikTok trends. Nobody wants that. But I am going to get you up to speed on how TikTok played a major, but maybe not the only role in this. So keeping this part brief, a few TikToks from primarily two photographer influencers, but then eventually more, started trending about a month ago or so, and they all specifically highlighted the X100V for several different reasons. And in this case, the influencers really lived up to their name. Within weeks of these TikToks going up, every X100 model, not just the X100V, saw a very rapid rise in sales across the board from Fuji directly, from resellers, new and used, and the price got crazy high at some sites, like $3,000 for this thing on Amazon at one point when it was announced for $1,400. Petapixel shared a great graph here that shows this price craziness in the article they posted, and I guess this guy from Fuji Weekly deserves some credit too, because a big part of the trend, I think, was about using his film simulation recipes that he's chefed up there on that website. And I did plug one or two of these into the X100V when I had it. And things have calmed down since then quite a bit, but things aren't totally back to normal. Fuji themselves and B&H are out of stock on the X100V. And if you look, there are definitely some inflated prices on this thing. So that's kind of the skinny on the price craziness that just recently happened. But like I said, the real point of this video is to unpack some of the claims I saw about this thing when I was looking into this, because I love shooting on this camera. And I want to make sure people are getting the right idea and they're not getting misled, okay? Because this is YouTube, the video sharing platform, you know, for legitimate discussion, and it provides an environment for creativity and acceptance. Just look at any comment section. So other than some of the really lofty claims about this camera, like this camera will change your life and Fuji X100V will make you a better photographer, There were pretty much like three main notions about the X100V people were kind of circulating on, and I'm gonna sort of break down this video like claim by claim, because there were really three main categories. Category 1, no editing. The number one claim I really saw people gravitating towards is the straight out of camera workflow. A lot of statements like, a camera, the pictures you don't have to edit, they're ready to post straight out of camera, send them right to your phone, post super easily, not a lot of editing, maybe surface level editing, or none at all. And that one, I'm not gonna lie, is going to be really hard to argue with. Yes, the X100V has the same raw JPEG file structure that pretty much any other Fujifilm does, but people are really clinging on to the idea of just shooting JPEGs on this thing, having them automatically linked to their phone, and just being able to post them that much easier without that middle step of going through an editing software. And I gotta say, that is a total possibility with the X100V, and it really sort of welcomes that workflow. Fuji has really paid a lot of attention to that type of shooter that isn't necessarily taking 1200 RAWs in a session and going in meticulously editing all those. They're appealing to the ocean of people that just want to snap a couple good looking pictures that are better than their phone, but still be able to get them on their phone and post super easily. I've done this with the Leica Q2, but now there's also that Leica Deluxe 7. Those are gonna offer really similar workflows. Camera to phone, either over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. But part of what makes this experience unique to the X100V, I suppose, those staple Fujifilm film simulations that are built into this thing, which, if you didn't know already, represent real 35mm Fujifilm film stocks. But I gather that since the X100V is a bit more of like an entry-level beginner's camera, that it's a lot of people's introduction to the wonders of shooting on Fuji cameras, which includes those awesome film simulations. The second pretty major claim I saw people kind of honing in on was the X100V is the closest thing to shooting on film without actually shooting on film. A lofty claim, some elitists might kind of cringe at that one, but I absolutely see where they're coming from. I started off this video by talking about how shooting on the X100V can be really reminiscent of my 35mm film point and shoot experience. It's got the front flash, 35mm focal length, rangefinder design, also just kind of like the type of photography that's typically done with point and shoot bodies. I think the X100V has all of that going for it, but this also, of course, has to do with the Fujifilm film simulations we were just talking about. But remember that I said TikTok might not be entirely responsible for this craze? Well, it is, but there was kind of like an undercurrent going on that came from people going a step further than those built-in film simulations, plugging in manually those film simulation recipes from our friend over there at Fuji Weekly. This site has tons of other recipes for all sorts of other film stocks that you can just sort of manually enter into the image quality menu, and that's sort of what they mean by recipes. I, of course, was super curious about this and entered this Kodachrome 1 setting in. I also followed the Superia 1600 recipe, and I was really impressed with both of these. It's not like I can identify Fujicolor Superia when I see it, but I looked at a couple of those stills afterwards and I said, dang, that could actually emulate film really well. That pretty much brings me to my last claim I saw really circulating in these TikToks. The Fujifilm X100V is a beginner-friendly camera. Again, a claim that is really hard to disagree with for me, and it ties back into that whole accessibility thing. Your best camera is the one you have with you at all times. And the X100V is just begging to be shot. And there are a few features on this thing too that I honestly had forgotten about that make it even like extra versatile for like any situations. And I particularly love how I have those set up. The AF mode button up here assigned to flash mode, scroll over to TTL-2, and that will pop this little built-in flash up here above the lens. That can give you a whole look of its own, that front flash concert photography thing that's really big right now. More subtly, it can obviously just give you that extra little bit of fill-in light. This top custom button up here set to ND, which activates this little curtain ND filter again, which I love so much. It helps the shootability of this camera immensely. And C, I also have my film simulation set to this little back button right here. With all those things combined, I can literally operate my three favorite things about this camera all with one hand, and pretty darn quickly too. Front flash, classic negative, portrait style indoors, boom. Turn around, shooting out the window, flash off, ND on, classic chrome, Boom, insanely quick. Almost as quickly as my brain thinks about doing things, which is way too fast sometimes. But here's my little take here, and it's something that I think also really contributed to the explosion in popularity of this thing, but it was something that I didn't really see mentioned that much, and if it was mentioned, it was just sort of like quick thing or like a footnote. The X100V is a very sleek and stylish and pleasing to look at camera, and people seriously underestimate the power of a good-looking camera. At first glance, especially the two-tone silver one, this thing can really pass as looking like a 35mm film camera, and as ridiculous as it sounds, you've got to put into consideration the hipster effect. For every person that got the X100V who genuinely wanted to start the journey of exploring the wonders of photography and got an amazing tool for that to explore their skills with, for every one of those people, a certain percentage of people just got the X100V with the primary purpose of looking good while they're taking pictures, with maybe like a sub goal of getting some good stuff to post online. And if that is how somebody starts off getting into photography and then eventually becomes an amazing, life-changing photographer whose work gets seen by millions and changes the world, who am I to judge? That's pretty much going to wrap up this video, sort of like parsing out how that explosion in popularity of the X100V happened, and if that was totally warranted or if that was just TikTok getting out of control. As always, if you have any questions about the Fujifilm X100V or other possible digital point-and-shoot alternatives, let me know in the comment section below, and we'll start a discussion. If you happen to like this video, what are you waiting for? Hit that little thumbs up button. It's gonna let me know you like this video. It's gonna let YouTube know. It's gonna help it circulating in the old algorithm. But if you didn't do any of that and you just did this next part, that would be phenomenal. Subscribe to the channel. We are so close to that 100,000 subscriber milestone. Every single sub helps. Once you've subscribed, you can hit that little bell button. It's next to the subscribe button. That's gonna keep you notified whenever we post new content, which is every week. So see you in next week's video, folks. And remember, don't be afraid to turn those positives into negatives. We'll see you in the next one.